Have you ever noticed how the most difficult part of a long journey is not the moment you decide to leave but the long stretch of road that follows afterward? Think about a time when you had to let go of a very old habit or a routine that felt like a part of your own skin. It could be something small like checking your phone the second you wake up, or something life-changing like choosing to live a life without alcohol. We often celebrate the big decision because it feels like the hard work is done once we say no for the first time. But there is a quiet mystery that stays with us in the days and months that follow. The silence that fills the room when you stop doing the one thing you thought you loved can be very loud and very heavy. We find ourselves standing in the middle of a blank space, wondering who we are if we are not that person anymore. It is like looking at a map where all the roads have been erased and you have to draw them back one by one with a shaky hand. This leads us to a common surface concept about change that many of us believe. We tend to think that getting better is mostly about subtraction. We believe that if we just remove the bad thing or the heavy thing, then everything else will naturally fall into place. We focus all of our energy on the act of stopping. We use our willpower to push away the glass or the phone or the habit. But simply taking something away leaves a hole. If we do not fill that hole with something else, our hands will eventually start creeping back toward the old comfort because the emptiness is too much to bear. Change is not just about what you quit. It is about the strange and wonderful things you decide to start doing instead. This brings us to a hidden assumption that we often carry in our hearts. We assume that we already know ourselves perfectly. We think we know exactly what we like and what we hate. We tell ourselves stories like, "I am the kind of person who only enjoys this one thing," or "I am not the creative type." When we stop a major habit, we often realize that these stories might be completely wrong. We have been so busy with our old routine that we forgot to check if we have changed on the inside. We assume our identity is fixed like stone, but it is actually more like a garden that has been covered in weeds. Once you clear the weeds, you might be surprised to see what starts to grow. You might find that you actually enjoy knitting or watching quiet videos or reading stories that have nothing to do with your past life. You have to be willing to see what life is like when you are not following the old script. This reveals a structural pattern in how humans find meaning. We often find our way back to ourselves through the mundane and the simple. When life feels dark or empty, we do not always need a grand plan or a massive career change. Sometimes we just need to start sketching. Imagine someone who feels stuck and then starts drawing something silly like a mermaid living a very boring life. This small act of creativity creates a structural shift in the day. It provides a destination for the mind and a task for the hands. It is not about creating a masterpiece for the world to see, but about creating a newsletter for yourself. This pattern shows that curiosity is a much stronger tool than willpower. Willpower is like a muscle that gets tired, but curiosity is like a light that keeps showing you new corners of the room. When we are curious about our own lives, we stop being afraid of the blank space and start seeing it as a playground. We can reframe our entire perspective on recovery and growth. Instead of seeing it as a battle or a struggle, we can see it as a series of tests. It is like being a scientist in your own life. You can say to yourself, "I am going to try this new activity today just to see what happens." If it is boring, that is okay. If it is strange, that is even better. We are retrying the world with fresh eyes. We are giving ourselves permission to be different people than we were yesterday. This reframing removes the pressure to be perfect and replaces it with the freedom to be open. You are not just someone who stopped doing something bad, you are someone who is open to new experiences. You are a person who is willing to be surprised by your own potential. Applying this to our daily lives means looking at the small gaps in our schedule and asking what we can put there. When you get home from work and the urge to fall back into an old habit hits, you try to have a few simple things ready. Maybe you have a book of thrillers waiting, or a ball of yarn, or a sketch pad. It is about being real with yourself and knowing that you need to stay busy so your hands do not wander back to the past. We can apply this to how we treat other people too. We can stop labeling our friends and family by their past mistakes and start asking them what new things they are trying. We can support the people who are drawing mermaids or writing newsletters or just sitting quietly and watching the world go by. It is a slow process of building a new life piece by piece, and it requires a lot of patience and a gentle heart. As we move deeper into this reflection, we realize that the most important thing is to keep testing everything we think we know about ourselves. Life is much larger than the few habits we are used to. Even when times are rough and we feel like we are not doing anything important, the act of being open is an action in itself. We might not believe in magic or perfect love every day, but we can believe in the power of showing up for ourselves. We can find beauty in a mundane life because that is where the real transformation happens. It happens in the quiet afternoons when we choose a new path instead of the easy one. It happens when we realize that our identity is not a prison but a work in progress. We are constantly evolving, and the best way to move forward is to stay hungry for the next small discovery. We have to keep retrying things we thought we disliked because we might be a different version of ourselves now. The more we experiment, the more we realize that the world is full of things to like if we are just willing to look for them. This is the true meaning of finding your way after a big change. It is not about reaching a finish line but about learning how to walk in a new direction with a sense of wonder. If you were to stop your most common daily habit tomorrow, what is the first small and unexpected activity you would try just to see who you might become?